My name's Roisin Commane. I'm currently in New York City. I'm an assistant professor in Earth and Environmental Sciences at Columbia University in New York City. Yes. So I manage my own hours. I decide how much I want to work, but usually it's more than a normal week. But I can take vacation when I want to. I can take holidays, all that kind of stuff. So yes, the job definitely gives me the kind of lifestyle I like. I make my own schedule. There's no real set hours. I do a lot of traveling with work. And for me, that's a plus because I love to travel. So it's been great for that kind of perspective. So I was looking for jobs during the recession in 2008, and the only job I could find that would even answer my email was to do some research in air quality in the US. So I moved to Boston, and I was there for about 9 years. But that job was very much contract based, so year to year I would have funding. So in 2017, I applied for a job in New York, and I got that one, and that's a full 7-year contract, and then they decide whether or not to keep me on full-time permanent after that. But it means I'm no longer relying on research funding coming through, which was what I was relying on in Boston. So for me, there's not really a typical day. Some days I teach, other days I go and visit field sites. So we're measuring CO2 and air quality at a site in Harlem in northern Manhattan. So I'll walk over there and do all the site servicing and checking instruments and that kind of thing. But there's no real set day, which I kind of like. There's a routine in that I meet with the people I'm managing every morning, and we just chat over coffee. But that's about the only thing that happens every day, which I like. I think if I was doing the same thing all day, every day, that is not something I would like to do. I like the variety of different things on different days. For the kind of work I do, we often do what we call intensives. So I'll go somewhere for 3 weeks making measurements of some air quality gas. And oftentimes those are really fun, but they're a little exhausting. So we'll spend months getting ready. We'll do 3 months or a month, depending on the project, 3 weeks of an intensive all day, every day. And then we'll take a chunk of time and just relax. So that's how I've managed to see much of the world, is with projects like that, where we'll travel to somewhere and we'll measure for 2 weeks, and then I'll take a week off and go explore the country where we've been measuring from. So I really like that side of it. Sometimes the travel can get a lot. So for projects that we did I was involved in a NASA project where we flew around the world. And that particular project, we did that in 3 weeks. So, or almost a month, but it means that you're constantly going and you have to pretty much suspend your life at home for a month or 2 months and then come back into it. So as you get older, that has become tougher. I used to really enjoy that. So I think having to suspend things for so long can be tough, but it's actually working out pretty well for me. So I guess sometimes the too much travel can be the downside. So in school, I did physics, chemistry, accounting, and music, along with the usual three. Um, I enjoyed I had a really good chemistry teacher. The physics I kind of enjoyed, but not as much as the chemistry. But I was way better at accounting. But I decided I did not want to do business. I wanted to do something in science / music. But I ended up going with the science. Then I applied to UCD to do science. So I did honors maths for the Leaving Cert, which in an all-girls school, there wasn't a big class. So I did chemistry and applied maths, joint honors, and really enjoyed the kind of applied side of the maths stuff, not pure maths itself. I never really took to that. And they've all been really useful, but I spend most of my days coding these days. So I never did any computer science in undergrad. I learned a lot about what I didn't want to do. And that's just as valuable. The kind of stuff that, you know, what did I really want to do myself? You have to know what you don't want in a career. So I didn't want something where I was stuck in a lab doing the exact same thing every single day, or having a really set routine I find monotonous. So from my own personal, I like having a lot of variety. So it kind of, you learn a lot about what you want from what you realize you don't want. Irish music, Irish dancing. So the presentation skills part of it, that is absolutely essential for any career. Doesn't matter what it is. It can be terrifying, and the more you do it, the more practice you get, the slightly easier it becomes. But if you ever get to the point where you're not a little worried about when you go to give a presentation, it means you don't care. So even now I get butterflies when I have to get up and give a talk, and I'm teaching. So like, I still get that feeling. But being able to convey the science you're doing is extremely important. I guess the most rewarding is like being able to go. So when we did the last round the world trip, in Punta Arenas in Chile, we went to visit one of the local schools and explain what we were doing. And the reaction from those kids, filling responses I get, they were quite excited about it. And I think being able to communicate the science I'm doing and get the reaction from people, that's what I find quite rewarding. So similar idea, the stuff in the Arctic, we try and go to visit communities there and explain what we're seeing. So in the Arctic stuff, they're seeing the repercussions of all the permafrost melting. Houses are collapsing, villages are falling into the ocean. We're measuring the trace gas implications of that, but you can't see gases. So it's being able to express to them to say, look, as well as all this physical stuff happening, this is what we're finding in the atmosphere, this is what it means. Unless, it's very difficult to do that because it's not tangible. I mean, even air quality in New York, everything shut down in March and April. The air quality vastly improved. That was the first time people really understood we can have clean air living in a city. So being able to communicate that kind of stuff has been the most rewarding, I think. Well, other than, you know, singing Superstar when I was a kid, or something cool like an astronaut, but I wear glasses, so that isn't happening. But I never really had an ideal what I want to go do. I mean, I really like what I'm doing now. And if I had been like aware enough way back when, maybe it would have been one of my dream jobs. But I didn't think that far ahead. Most of what I've done, I've kind of fallen into because it's interesting. And I think that was something that was like pointed out to us in school, that like, if you find something fun, go for it, get good at it, and then you might be able to get a job out of it. And that's often kind of how people end up being really good at what they do. Well, if you're applying for PhD positions in the US, having research experience is definitely a plus. So we have people coming in where they've done an entire year of projects and research, and they're applying to grad school, and trying to get into that is quite difficult. I didn't really have those opportunities. Now, I did apply and worked as a technician on the water treatment plant in Ennis one summer. And then the wastewater treatment plant, decided I was not doing that for a living. I worked as kind of an intern at one of the chemical plants in Shannon, and they were wonderful to me, and I really enjoyed it. But again, it was like, that's not really what I want to do. So that all of that experience added up, because I was then able to talk about what I did want to do when I started applying for jobs. So any experience you can get, it doesn't have to be the exact experience you would like to work in, but if you can learn from that and think about what you didn't like from that and bring it to your next position, that's kind of the best advice I can give, I think.